Welcome back to Area DMG. I'm your host, Hope Wesley, the Mile High Mouth, and today we're going to take a look at Adventure Time, Episode 5 of Season 8, Horse and Ball. The name of this episode makes me think of something a little bit more kinky, honestly. 50 Shades of James Baxter. Anywho, this episode starts with some fuzzy mole men watching their oldest break bread, and he breaks out an uneven amount of pieces, and they're like, "Wait, you're missing a piece," essentially. And he goes, "That's because I will die soon. My body will grow old and explode, and I will be no more." And they're all like, "Ah!" And he's like, "Yes, cry and hug me." I love that about this series. I love the part with like the King Worm. He's like, "Hug me." I don't know. It's just something funny about that. The demands for hugs. Hug me. You can do it. Anyways, then James Baxter, the best and worst card of Adventure Time Flux, appears, and this causes Finn, BMO, and Jake to rush out of the treehouse to see what's happening. Like, "James Baxter!" James Baxter's like, "James Baxter!" And I'm like, oh, goodness. And then the ball accidentally breaks and James Baxter is confused. So Jake and BMO decide to go get a patch for the beach ball or another beach ball. Finn then carries the very comatose James Baxter into the treehouse. So they go to the Raggedy Kingdom and meet the Raggedy Princess, or rather BMO and Jake do. And she sends them on a futile quest for a ball. Then we hit back to James Baxter and Finn's trying to figure out how to... He's like freaking out that James Baxter's there, and Shelby's all like, "Hey, here's what you should do. Just act cool," and all that. So he's kind of trying futilely to act cool. And what happens is we get a little bit of James Baxter's backstory. He lived in the Horse City and just ran away from civilization before throwing his bindle, which is what those little things that people have. Okay, if you have a stick with a little bag on it where you hold all your possessions, that's a bindle. He throws that into a river, and then it goes and he finds a cave. Inside the cave is a bunch of junk, and he meets a very depressed bat. And he decides to cheer up the bat by riding on a ball. And then he decides to yell out something like, which apparently is not a name. It's actually, he's mispronouncing the words games and bookstore. James Baxter! Games bookstore! I guess maybe they got like a Manhattan-y type accent for them. Who knows? So, he cheers up the bat. And then we find, so eventually we go back to like Jake and BMO. And eventually Raggedy Princess finds out that they're trying to help a fellow artist after she recites some very depressing poetry to them. And they're like, "Oh, we're trying to help James Baxter. You're like the opposite of." And she's just like, "Oh, okay, I'm going to support another artist." And she gives them lots and lots of beach balls. So they get the beach balls and they head home. Back at the treehouse, Finn is trying to talk to a very comatose James Baxter, who then decides, you know what? After they show up with all the beach balls and they drop those there, James Baxter decides, because you see in the little in the flashbacks, James Baxter, I guess that's what you could call him, eventually becomes so popular that he kind of ignores the bat, and the bat leaves. And this is sad. It's actually kind of sad. And James Baxter decides, instead of just balancing on the ball, he's gonna dance. So he dances. And he leaves dancing. And then Finn's like, and Jake's like, "Who's he dancing for?" And then Finn goes, "I think he's just dancing for himself." And that's the end of the episode. It's a little sad. The bat is so cute. It makes me think of ukulele. I think Layla, or the ukulele, or I don't know, the little bat in that. That's what the bat makes me think of. And it's adorable. This is one of those things where I've noticed a lot of times in Adventure Time, they'll have episodes that seem like they're filler, especially past like season 1. You'll have episodes that seem like they're filler, but they're all just backstory for a character that you wouldn't think about. I mean, they've really kind of fleshed out in their 9 seasons. We're on season 8. Their 9 seasons in a movie and 2 miniseries, they've kind of fleshed out characters to an intense regard. We know more about these characters than we do about many real people, which is kind of sad if you think about it, but also kind of great, because good entertainment should have well-rounded characters, even if the only well-rounded bit of them is that they balance on a ball, or a lot of it's just implied. With James Baxter, it's kind of implied that, well, go watch the episode. I thought it was pretty good. I feel that it's implied, a lot of his characterization's implied. He's just like, very subtly, like a person who just, I guess, some tragedy happened and just left, gave up on society, and realized that there's a joy in making other people happy. And then eventually, similar to like the episode Sad Face, I think, yeah. That he discovers that there's not only is there joy in making other people happy, but in order to truly make other people happy, you must first make yourself happy. That's why James Baxter dances for himself at the end of the episode. I thought it was a pretty good episode. Let me know in the comments below. Hit that thumbs up. Go ahead and like this if you haven't already. Subscribe if you haven't already. Share this if you haven't already. And make sure you hit that little bell so that whenever a new episode comes out, you get notified of this. We'll tell you. It'll show up in your email and be like, oh, oh no, there's a new episode of Area DMG, a new video. I have to go watch it multiple times, repeatedly, and I have to examine everything about it. Like, if it's one of these 4K ones, I can read everything back here, so I should do that. But yeah, let me know in the comments below and all that stuff. But yeah, if you hit that little bell, you'll get notified whenever we have a new episode. And until the next new episode comes out, you are now caught up.